We should be live.
Okay, welcome everyone. It is March 24th, 2020. We're at a regular city council meeting. We're starting here at 7:02 p.m. Per Executive Order 2020-5 issued by Governor Gary R. Herbert on March 18, 2020. This meeting will be conducted electronically and may be viewed on the city's YouTube channel. An anchor location is not provided. Thank you all for coming together tonight electronically to conduct business. And I call this meeting to order. And as such, I just want to remind us all of the procedure that we have worked out for electronic meetings together. So number one, unless you have background noise, we're asking that you keep your mics live. So no need to mute. That can cause some complication. So go ahead and keep your mic live unless you have background noise, at which point it's okay if you mute and unmute yourself. Number two, for deliberation, what's going to be most helpful is when you would like to speak, just raise your hand and I'll call on you. That way we don't speak on top of each other. And that goes for motions as well. So if you're ready to make a motion, you can also raise your hand, I'll call on you, and then we can make that motion. And as we have all practiced before on our last meeting's call, for 4 votes, other than the vote to adjourn, I will be taking a roll call. It will be a roll call vote. So when it is time to vote, just take a breath and I will call your name. And then when I call your name, you'll make your vote. The reason for that is to ensure that I, as chair, am not creating votes in any particular pattern. And it's specific to electronic participation. So Summer, I just wanted to give you the opportunity in case I forgot to mention any procedure with electronic voting.
I think you covered it all.
Okay, and patience and forgiveness with all of us. If we get a little stumbly at tonight's meeting, that's okay. We have a very light agenda. And so this is not only good action, but also good practice for us. Okay. So we are going to move on now to approval of the minutes. 3.1 minutes for March 6, 2020, our special city council workshop. Is there a motion? Karen, is there a second?
Okay.
Ronnie, any deliberation? I'll call for the vote. Kaylin.
Aye.
Ronnie.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Karen.
Aye.
Tawny.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Great job, everyone. And now on to our reporting. I wanted to share some messages first from the health department that they're very encouraged, Ryan in particular, very encouraged by the results of the order that was passed on the 17th. They've seen great reduction in the amount of visitation, and Ryan said, this is our time to celebrate that order did what he had hoped it would do, which is to reduce the amount of visitor travel to Moab. And he wants to share that with all of us, that we can actually feel good that the order was successful. A message from Jen. So sorry, I'm just pulling this up. From Jen at the hospital. Just some things to note that there is, again, a noticeable positive impact of the health department order, that we still have no confirmed cases of COVID-19, but that doesn't mean that it's not here in Moab. We have a lack of testing, and that means that we should all behave as if COVID-19 is around us and possibly inside of us. And that they are still at the hospital planning and preparing for a surge of individuals that are infected. So, they're still very very much in the planning process of dealing with coronavirus. I also wanted to share a message from Jake, who works for or leads the Utah Conservation Corps. Let's see, USU's Conservation Corps program is continuing to work in Moab on the Mill and Pat Creek project, removing hazardous fuels and fire loads in the creek. The partnership is with Rim to Rim Restoration and the Forest Fire State Lands WUI. They're having crews camped and isolated at Willow Springs Campground. So that's an important message to send out to everyone. If you do see campers, in particular at the Willow Springs Campground, they're allowed to be there. And they're going to be camping there and working in this area for the next month. That crew is also stationed and readily available to mitigate possible disasters, as in disaster response. So they are stationed there, and it's just good to note that they're a large group camping. And as far as activity that I've done over the past 2 weeks, it's pretty much been all coronavirus activity and meetings. I've attended some of the Grand County COVID-19 task force meetings. I've done interviews with local and regional and also larger press interviews. And also I have been asked to serve on one of the governor's subcommittees as part of the task force for state and local resources. And I'm not going to get too detailed into that because I think that you've seen the Facebook live events that I did with our health department, or sorry, not our health department, our public works department, with our chief. I just want to reiterate the message to all of us that the water from the tap is safe to drink. Please do not dispose of anything other than toilet paper and human waste into the toilets and into our sinks. Those flushable wipes are not really flushable, and they're not good for our sewer system. A message for just regarding outdoor recreation. So we really want to stay healthy, and we want to keep our spirits up. And locals have been asking, is it okay if I go on a hike? Maybe we have a little bit of outdoor recreation guilt, but it is absolutely okay for people to get out and recreate and have fun and breathe fresh air. The only thing that the health department and, well, not the health department, but the hospital is asking is maybe check your Epic at the door. This is not the time to do really, really intense recreation. This is a time to just be responsible with your recreation. So that is it from me. And I think we can just follow the pattern that we would normally follow during our council meetings. So that means, Ronnie, you're next.
Okay, like the mayor, I don't have much. I'm mostly reading Corona stuff, trying to keep up with all of that. I did have a follow-up question for the mayor, and that was just with the task force. In case residents didn't know, it looks like the task force now has its own Facebook page along with the city Facebook page. And then I know when I'm trying to look for stuff, there's the state page, and there's the Southeast Utah Health District page, and the city page in terms of websites. And then on Facebook, I'm looking at the city and the task force. And I just didn't know, as a task force member, Mayor, do you have any advice for people who might not have time to like check all the sites? Do you feel like one resource is better than others at this point? And then obviously we have other good lists in the community. We have the Chamber of Commerce list.
Yeah, I'm actually really glad that you asked that, because I think that certain sites are really helpful in what kind of information you're looking for. So the city website, we're trying to be all encompassing with information that we have, but certainly we're not going to be able to publish everything. But that's a really good local source. The state of Utah, GoEd, is tasked with keeping the Utah coronavirus website filled with information. And there is actually a particular website. So if you go to oh gosh, and I don't know what and I'm not sure I can pull it up while we're on Zoom here. I think it's coronavirusutah.gov, or it's like utahcoronavirus.gov. Whichever one that is, /business is an amazing resource for businesses, because what they're going to do is compile all of the federal, state, and whatever local resources there are available specific to businesses. So understanding everything from whether or not your employees should be laid off or file for unemployment, things of that nature. That's where a lot of the state resources will be found. So locally, I would say Moab City. State, I would say the coronavirus website for the state. Federally, I don't know. There's we have our federal resource as well, and then we also do have the Johns Hopkins map that a lot of people are referencing. Silicon Slopes also created a map that shows the cases. So.
Okay, and I did just check for that one you were mentioning. So yeah, it is coronavirus.utah.gov /business. Yeah.
Yes, /business. And that's going to be a great resource for our businesses locally to understand what specifically what state resources are available, but they're also collating and have on that team federal resources that are going to be available. Thanks for asking, Ronnie.
Yeah. So one of the things I did do is I went EMS. We changed our board meeting because just so much going on for the crew there. But we did get an update from the director. I'm just trying to hit the right key here. And I did go to their staff training on COVID that they held on the 12th of March. And that was good to sit in on. That was helpful for me. Let me just pull this up, just has some numbers because I know you guys like those. February call volume numbers were 29% higher than February a year ago. And Director Annie Smith was unsure of why the large increase. But overall, year to date, we've been 27% above last year. And then they are obviously doing a lot of work having to do with COVID. And some of you may be wondering because they have been working on this new building. So they just gave us an update telling us the RFP was published and there are a number of people considering submitting bids. And this was a few days ago. So there may be another update beyond that. And let's just see here. And my only other question was, and this maybe just goes back to the mayor and we can deal with it accordingly. But like many of you, I've been trawling Facebook and everything else just for updates. And I did see our chief medical director, Dylan Cole at the hospitals, appeal to the community that they write elected officials, largely for an urgent appeal for critical supplies and widespread distribution of necessary testing capacity and things like employing tools such as the Defense Production Act. And so I didn't know, a lot of this comes down to federal stuff, but I didn't know if there's any value or if it's an option for us. And maybe Mary, you can weigh in as a task force member, if there's any kind of letter or resolution our council can do just to say how urgent we think this is. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm hearing federal stories about sometimes we talk about the Defense Production Act, but other times we talk about just letting industry do what they're going to do. And then there's been some discussion of releasing some of the national stores of equipment. But of course, the focus is going to California and Illinois and New York, obviously, because they're so hard hit. But it still means communities like ours are in dire straits for equipment. So I just didn't know if there's anything we can do on the local level to just make our voices louder that we need stuff too. And our healthcare providers need protection too.
Well, I think that message has been received. We're in a place right now where we have hopefully done what everyone's trying to do, which is flatten the curve. And so we'll see, a measured amount of infected people that are, accessing care. And we saw in the, in the news how China is now sending supplies to Italy. So we shall see if ventilators will be sent our way. But you are right. There is a lack of testing, and we are still hoping for more ventilators for Moab Regional Hospital. As for what we can do as a council, I think that message is very clear. In Governor Herbert's live address today, he did speak to the fact that testing is now going to start ramping up, and the president in his press conference today said that as well. So I think we're all just really hoping for, and I'm not sure what we can do on a local level. I'm not sure that a letter or a megaphone or a picket line is going to be able to, will give us anything more or faster in terms of testing. It is very discouraging, I will say, that we are not testing individuals with symptoms. The hospital is still held to regulations of who gets tested. So unless you are a vulnerable population and have had access to somebody with coronavirus, if you've got a fever and you're displaying the symptoms, you may not get tested because of the lack of tests. So it's important to know that that's the reality in Moab right now, but it's also, I guess, important to know that the state of Utah is very aware of that reality. So I'm not sure what we could do really locally as a council, unfortunately, right now.
Thank you. That was it for me.
Thanks, Ronnie. Mike?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just one big meeting to talk about at the city's Water Advisory Board. It goes by various names. I want to thank Carly in particular for helping organize this, and communication with city staffs is much improved. And we're actually talking about real things instead of hashing over old subjects. So thank you, Carly. She brought Chuck Williams talk about water rates, and even better yet, Corley Shirtlaff from the planning department, where we hashed around water conservation related issues that are part of the new standards for overnight accommodations. And so it's nice to come to a consensus there. So thank those guys for doing that. I still have it on my agenda, by the way, Carly, to I'd like us to expand our charter beyond what the state requires in way of water conservation efforts, because the quantity of water in the years to come is certain to remain an important issue. So there's more on that. So that, I think, is still on our agenda, but otherwise helping to communicate better with staff is a great thing. Finally, I did have a request from a resident today, by the way, who wanted to know if there was a compilation, a list, if you will, of various popular businesses around the area and whether they're open or closed or some indeterminate state in between. So if they wanted to go, for example, to a particular store that it's not clear whether they'd be open or not, there'd be some easy way to find out before he goes down there or tries to call. So Emily, I don't know if you know anything about that, but if so, that would be handy to disseminate. Otherwise, I think that's it for the week.
Thanks, Mike. And I do think that the Travel Council, although I haven't gone to it recently, was compiling a list of businesses that are still open. Does anybody know?
Mayor, this is Lori. That's accurate.
Okay. Karen, you had your hand raised. Do you know?
I did. So tomorrow, I'll bring that up at our chamber meeting because we're having our first Zoom chamber meeting. So that'd be a great thing. I mean, they're giving out information almost daily, so that might be worth, if compiling that list and working with the Travel Council. So I'll bring that up.
Mike, did you have anything else?
I do not. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. I'm just going to follow up real quick about that. Businesses, in particular restaurants, have been concerned about whether or not they should stay open. Even retail has been concerned whether or not they should stay open. I did check in with Orion about that, and his message is clear. If it is not ordered per the order on March 17th, then they are absolutely able to continue to do business. And we at the city have continued to support the health department in their order. So what that means is that takeout or to-go orders are still very much allowed. And for the people that are working at the hospital, that's a great resource for them. So I know that we're trying to balance whether or not we are open to visitors and the perception of open to visitors. But as far as Orion is concerned and the health department is concerned, takeout and to go of restaurants is still allowable, as is retail. Ronnie?
Oh, I'm just going to tell you, I was just going to the discovermoab.com, the travel council site, and it actually has a tab at the top in red that says open. And if you hit that, it'll take you to the do it like a moablocal.com site. And then there's actually a tab, if you scroll down a little bit, that tells you which businesses are open. So there's a list of businesses there, but I know Chamber's working on one too. So yeah, or they're collaborating.
All of the websites that the mayor listed earlier are available on our webpage through our COVID link. And so we will also put a link up to those businesses under there as well. But everything the mayor mentioned earlier is already available on our website. That's probably the easiest way to go find all those.
Right. Oh, it's good. This is good information. Okay, who's next? It would be Tawny.
And I actually went to a meeting with people before we had the order. It was the Canyonlands Healthcare Special Service District meeting. They, the week before, had their annual survey. They had a state survey team and a federal survey team. There were 11 items that they got dinged on. That came out funny. And they were able to resolve 2 of them while the survey team was there, and they're working on the other 9. There was nothing serious. There was nothing that really had to do with patient care. It had to do with things like, some dust on bed rails and some laundry issues. So there was nothing too exciting in that. The board was sent a letter today from the people on the board that handle the finances. And I believe that they're going to ask the CIB to postpone or withhold one payment that is coming up. And that would be a good thing, just because things are so uncertain. The museum is kind of in limbo right now. A lot of what they had planned to do in the next few weeks has been put on hold because of COVID-19. They are still working really hard to get the museum open. They don't have a hard open date. So there's still some education going on, and there's still some online tours that you can do through the museum just to watch the progression. But their staff and board have been working really hard and doing a really good job. And when you're stuck working from home, you find really interesting things. This is my grandfather's home handyman repair book from 1948. And just a tidbit of information, if you fix your own electric cord, it will only cost you 25 cents. If you take it to someone to fix it, it could cost $2. So don't do that. Learn to fix your own cords. And if you really want misinformation, this is my grandmother's 1934 sex education book. Norm and I had a really good time laughing at it. It is hysterical. If you ever want to borrow it, I'm willing to lend it out.
Well, these are certainly the times to dust off the bookshelf.
That's all I had.
Thanks, Tawny. Karen.
So it's been a quiet meeting wise for me since our last council meeting. Lots of emails back and forth. The chamber is very concerned about trying to do what's right and following orders from the health service district. There's been, like at the beginning of this, after our last meeting, there was some confusion as to where the powers that be would make the calls as to what would be closed and what wouldn't. And just, we're just trying to share that it's coming from the Southeastern Utah Health Department. And it's not, the call of the city, and it's not the call of the county. And so we're trying to just follow the rules that are being implemented by by our local health department. So, and Mayor, I was curious, is that, will that change, or is that like the protocol that we are staying with? Because it seems like there's a lot of questions, a lot of emails that we've received as to, the fact that, we didn't shut the town down earlier, or that we should, cloister and go into closure 100%. Do you want to just touch on whose responsibility that is?
We follow the lead of the health department, and we take the professionals and the doctors and the scientists, and we're following their lead. I'm not a doctor, nor am I a scientist. I listen to them and I take their advice, and we go as they direct, and we're following their direction. I want to thank them for the thought and the process they put into this. There's been times when we're in the process of working to close segments of our economy, including the hotels recently, and that took days. That took 4 or 5 days of 12, 14-hour days to work towards. And we were getting emails from people just demanding we go down there and close them. And there's due process rights, and this stuff is not that simple that we just go down there and tell someone they're closed. That's not how this works. And so we follow their direction. We work through the process. We make sure we're following people's rights and that they're getting notice, and we're trying to make sure that those business owners have notice prior to those actions being taken. And we want to make sure that we keep the health and the safety first and foremost of this community up front. And second then is to follow and make sure that the rights of those citizens who are being affected directly by those decisions are followed as well. So we get a lot of emails demanding we take action immediately, and we take action as quickly as we possibly can. And when those other decisions come down from the health department, we'll implement them, and we'll follow them, and we'll follow course until they tell us it's safe not to. And so we won't be making any impromptu decisions to reopen things prior to being told by those scientists and doctors that that's the proper course to take.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Joel. Thank you. Yeah, it's just, none of us have been in this position, ever before. And it's, last week, literally things were changing by the hour. And so, you guys are working your tail off, and I, appreciate everything you guys are doing and what employees in the city are doing. And it's just, there's some, unfortunate, there's people who are just angry and fearful, and it's important to hear them and try to be respectful, but to just show respect to everybody, because, there was, some definitely inappropriate things that were, with one of our board members at the chamber at the Hoodoo, and, receiving threats. And it's just, it's important as community members to know that business owners are, they're concerned about their employees, and they're also concerned about everyone who lives here. So it's not, it's not business against people's health. I just would like to reiterate that, that's an important message, and we're completely respectful to whatever Orion and Brendan, or Brandon at the health district decides to do. Brady, sorry.
Yeah.
So, yep. And that's it.
I think that's and you asked Karen too, just when is this going to end? That businesses really need to understand kind of what the threshold is of the, removal of the order. So the order was in place on March 17th, and it was a 30-day order.
Mm-hmm.
The health department did say that they were going to revisit in 14 days. So I would expect a statement from them after the 14 days have passed. But it is a 30-day, and it can continue past 30 days. I don't know about you, but I was pretty shocked to see the school district, well, the state, have all the school districts extend no school until May 1st. So just in case anyone hasn't heard that big news, May 1st, no school until May 1st. And that's only leaving our kids with 3 weeks in the classroom before the school year ends. If that is the case, if it's not just learning from home for the duration of this school year. And that is a tremendous pressure on parents that are attempting to work from home. It's difficult. And so my heart goes out to the working parents, the kids that are trying to work from home as well, our business community that is looking and saying, okay, they're looking at their cash flow projections. They're looking at how much they have in reserves. Will they get through 2 months? What is their loss of revenue? It's the same conversation that I think we as a city are having too. And all of that to say that we don't know, and the health department doesn't know when this is going to end and when the orders are going to be lifted. There is a projection that some people that are looking at the data and the way that the virus made its way through China and is making its way through Italy right now, that it's possible that we are going to see our spike of infections sometime in May. So that's a really hard thing to hear, that statistic to hear, and especially our business community. So right now, I think we're in this place of triage, like just trying to figure out all of our systems, and all of us trying to figure out how to do this remote participation for council meetings and for working from home and getting our kids set up for success where they can be independent learners. And then I think what we're going to see in the next couple of weeks is sort of a stabilization of this new normal of us, being at home and working from home and trying to project business into the future. And then at that point, what we really need to do as a council is understand what the resources are and make sure every one of us are sharing those resources, those federal, those state, and anything local that's able to emerge. There's action to see about repurposing some grant funds from the state and turning them into small business loans, and then potentially having local match for those loan dollars. Whatever we see, whatever resources we see, we share. And wherever we can advocate for resources, especially for rural Utah, we advocate. And that, I think, is going to be in the next 2 weeks. And I think as we see COVID-19 spread, we're going to have a better idea of where that peak is of infection in our community, and then hopefully have a better idea, especially for our businesses, what that means.
Mayor, I just would like to give a shout out to Lisa Church as well, because it has been incredible, the information that we have on our website. I mean, the unemployment information was on our site even before I saw it at the Salt Lake Chamber's website. I mean, it was really impressive. So yes, if she's listening, or Joel, Carly, if you can just let her know that it's been really awesome to see what we're promoting.
I'm sure she's listening, but we'll make sure she heard it.
Okay.
Okay, anything else, Karen?
I know that's it.
Thanks. And Kaylin.
Well, prior to the world changing, I attended an in-person meeting 2 Thursday mornings ago with some staff from the Incremental Development Alliance and a number of local developers, as well as city and county planning department staff, and we talked about opportunities and barriers to residential, and primarily, but small scale commercial to a lesser extent, development here. And we had several hours, so it was an opportunity to take a deep dive with some local developers about the challenges they see with local regulations, financing, which is by and large not unique to Moab, and the incremental development folks could present some opportunities they're seeing develop elsewhere and some innovation. So that was a good dialogue, and Caitlin was one of the people that spearheaded that, and hopefully we'll be hearing more in the future. Had the Solid Waste Special Service District's first Zoom meeting. That's an essential service, waste management, and it's typically a relatively high hazard job, both because of the machinery and the waste products that are being handled. And COVID-19 has brought that even more to the fore. As all of you have probably heard, the recycling center is closed right now because with that sort of separated process, it ends up being kind of hands-on for the staff, as well as having a mixing environment for recipients or drop-offs. It's not as busy now as it is on typical spring weekends, but with it being closed, it's a lot less busy. So Evan is continuing to monitor the situation. It seems like the message that's coming out about the lifespan of the virus on various materials and different environments is changing. So maybe in a couple of weeks, there'll be a reevaluation, and both locally and industry-wide on that. And then I attended with you, Mayor, 5 interviews for applicants for the finance director position. And so that was good experience, a wide range of experiences and backgrounds that brought, but I think we have some good candidates. And so imagine we'll all be hearing more about that soon. That's what I've got.
Thank you so much, Kaylin. And as we move into administrative reports, the administrative report section of our meeting, I just want to say how grateful and thankful I am to you, Joel, for all of the work that you have been doing. And you always respond humbly back to me saying, it's a team and I'm only as good as my team. And to you, I say, yes, but every team needs a leader. And you have really worked hard with staff to make sure that all of our staff are getting their needs met and that they are feeling safe and comfortable in this uncertain time. And that our water is flowing and our sewer is, well, flowing. And that our PD and our chief have what they need as we're going into this pandemic. And Joel, you've done such a good job. And just for the council and for the staff that are with us and for the public, I just really want to give you a big shout out and a big thank you. You are doing a great job.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Mayor. I want to start out tonight by restating that City Hall is closed to the public, but still open. City staff is still working. We have, over the last 10 days, last 2 weeks, really, we've been putting in all the measures. So as this progresses, if we have to close City Hall and all of us are at home, that our requirements for the city to keep operating will keep operating without a hitch. And I think the last 7 days, work days, have went really, really well. And I cannot say enough about the staff and how hard they've worked to do it and the hours that they've put in. I think that we're ready, if this gets worse and we have to close, we're ready to do that. And we will keep providing essential services and inspections and plan review. And we don't plan on stopping the economy on our end. And we don't plan on stopping providing those essential services of water, sewer, and waste management going forward. Carly and I and Rachel met with Monument Waste and Dan and Bonnie, and we have made sure that those services will continue. I cannot say enough about Dan and Bonnie and their people over at Monument Waste. They are sacrificing for this community. They are making changes without any cost absorption to the city, and they're eating those costs, and they're large. And I cannot thank them enough for the sacrifice that they're making with their business in order for this community to keep operating. So I want to thank them. The emergency declaration that we declared a few days ago, 10 days or so ago now, initially was for 30 days. And under the Emergency Management Act, we have to renew that every 30 days. And so we've been tracking that. We're making sure to keep that on our radar. We couldn't put it on this agenda because it's so soon since we declared. The next meeting that we have is a couple days after that first 30 days expires. And so we have put on a meeting for April 10th, if we need to, and we'll review it at that time. We will extend the emergency management declaration by an additional 30 days, and we'll just keep tracking that and bringing you that meeting specifically as we go forward in order to make sure that we have the tools we need in order to keep this thing going and keep our heads above water here at the city. I want to thank the public. The vast majority of support and things we're hearing from the public have been great, and they understand that this is a very trying time for them and for all of us. And they understand we're doing everything we can in order to keep everything functioning and operational, and have been extremely supportive. I think Karen hit it on the head with some of the other issues we've been having, and it is extremely frustrating when that stuff goes on. It takes valuable resources when that stuff happens, and we take all of that serious. We put people on staff, the police department. We have to put people at those locations. We have to investigate all of that. They are taking valuable resources that we should be using in preparations for what we're dealing with. We're putting them in areas that just are ridiculous. So, but the vast majority of the public has been great, and the emails we're getting are very supportive, and I just can't thank the public enough in general for their support. And lastly, our staff has been working ridiculous amounts of hours, and I cannot tell you what they have put in order to make this work and make it so we can go work from home when that day comes. I've just been blown away. Everyone has stepped up. Everyone is well beyond their required work hours for their weeks that they're working. They are working from home. Some have small children, so their hours have changed. I have some people who during the day are dealing with their kids while their spouse is at work or their partner's at work, and they're out with their kids and they're doing things, and at night they're working. And I have the documentation, we can show all that, and the emails that are coming in at 1, 2 in the morning. And it's crazy to me the level of dedication that the staff has shown and the things that we're doing to just keep this moving forward. So I just want to thank all of them and tell them how much I appreciate them, and I appreciate the mayor's kind words. It's not a humble answer when I tell you that this is a team. I can do this by myself, not for 1 second. It's the people I work with. It's the key staff that we've built, and they just do an amazing job, and I'm so appreciative of them. So that's all I have. I want to thank you guys for being responsive to your emails. I thought we got a lot of emails before. Man, the last 2 weeks have just been absurd. So I want to thank you guys for helping with that and you responding to some of those, because there's days we just don't even have time to look at them. I mean, it's just where we're at. And so I appreciate you guys responding to those and fielding questions and doing those parts of this outreach that we have had a hard time keeping up with. And Lisa has been amazing, absolutely amazing. Our webpage is updated. Everything the mayor said can be found there. And so it's a great resource for people to go look at and find out what the information is. That said, Rachel is going to present for the finance department, finance director, and she's going to give you some info on kind of what we've also been working on with the closures and the situation we find ourselves in and where we're going. So I'll turn the time over to Rachel, and after that, I'll turn the time back to the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joel. Hi, Rachel. Welcome.
Hi, Mayor and Council. Nice to see you all on one screen. So I just wanted to take some time tonight to give you kind of a brief financial update. Let me share my screen really quick and I'll start the presentation. I won't be able to see you. So if you have a question, you'll probably just have to interrupt me because my whole screen will be the presentation. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
So I thought it would be good at this point in time to just talk a little bit about what we do know with revenue expectations and expenses. As you know, we're in the process of preparing the next fiscal year's budget, but we're anticipating an impact in this year's budget because of what our community is experiencing with COVID. So I just wanted to walk through a couple of slides here to just talk about what we might expect. Everything that you're looking at, please keep in mind that there's a 60-day lag in tax collections. So when I'm showing you May revenue, that's really for sales that take place in the month of March. June revenue is for sales in April. So as we know right now, all overnight lodging is temporarily suspended. I just wanted to show you on a graph, this comes from 2018 data. We can actually extrapolate out exactly how much is spent within Moab City on lodging sales during that period of time, since we have a TRT tax that is only collected on overnight accommodations. So you can see January and February, March and April, we take a pretty big jump. The shutdown of overnight lodging happened about halfway through April. So, or excuse me, halfway through March, department 30 days. So that would put it the second week of April. So these revenues that you're looking at right here are only for city taxes collected on room sales. So again, based on 2018 data, if you look, these are when we received the taxes in May and June. This is the amount that we received last year in May for just all city taxes collected on room sales, and then in June. And then what I did is just kind of break down if we had 10% room sales, 20% room sales, and so on through 60% room sales, so that you can see the potential revenue that's at risk. If for the month of March, we were only at a 10% room sale, then 300,000 of that month's revenue would be at risk. So I just thought that would maybe kind of give you a perspective. We can't really predict at this point what it's going to look like, but that kind of gives you a spectrum of what potentially our risk is on revenue for room sales. This is our overall sales tax revenue. So this is not just sales tax that is collected on room sales. This is all retail sales, everything that is subject to sales tax within Moab City limits. TRT obviously is only collected on overnight accommodations, but resort community, our local option sales tax and highway tax is collected on all retail sales with the exception of unprepared food. So this just gives you a snapshot of May and June, what we brought in 2018. Keep in mind for in fiscal year ending 2019. Keep in mind that what we anticipate bringing in this year was actually marked up 7% because we anticipated a 7% increase in our revenue. And then along with revenues, I just wanted to talk about, as you know, we've had a hiring freeze in place since the beginning of January, middle of January. We also, Joel implemented an executive order for a spending freeze last week. So that again is in this fiscal year. The estimated amount that the hiring freeze will reduce our expenditures or save us this year is just under 190,000. The spending freeze can be hard to estimate just because it applies to non-essential. Non-essential does not make up a large portion of our budget. The largest portion of our budget is made up by personnel costs. And so I'm estimating around 120,000 between now and the end of June. So potentially $100,000. Obviously, as we get farther into what this is going to look like for the next 3 months, for the next 6 months, in next year's budget, we'll want to do some pretty steady reevaluation, probably monthly, I would suggest, to see where our revenues are coming in. Potentially the hiring freeze and the spending freeze would last into next fiscal year, depending on what the risk is to our revenue. And that is all I have for the update. Are there any questions I could answer?
I just want to kind of reiterate what you just said. So like in summary, our revenue risk is under $1 million for the loss of revenue for the next 2 months. It's at $1 million. It's more than $1 million. It looks
The 2 months together add up to about 1.6, but I wouldn't anticipate that all 100% of our revenue would be at risk.
well, we're still collecting fees.
Yeah, but this is just the aspect of our economy that's being affected by what's happening. This doesn't relate to those. That's just that aspect.
So 1.6 is our risk revenue, our revenue at risk.
Yeah, and the hotels closed this month halfway through, and so we don't project we're going to lose the entire month of March, but we don't know about April and we don't know about June. So right now we're just showing you what we know is that these are the 2 months that we know are at risk at this point. As this goes forward, this goes into July and August, we'll be coming back to you and showing you that info again.
And
as we
then-
get into July and August, we should have the actual numbers back for what is currently May and April at that time.
And just regarding cash flow projections and what we have in the bank. Rachel, did you want to speak to that?
I can. Our cash flow is fine. We still have utility payments and other revenue sources other than sales tax. Sales-based taxes are a component of our overall revenue structure. So I don't anticipate that we're going to have any cash flow issues during this time.
Karen?
So I'm just curious, with the federal taxes for corporations and businesses not to have to pay until July, will that affect you guys as well? Like, I mean, is the state just like thinking of deferring payments for?
We don't see, that's not any of our revenue source. So it's the hardest part about working here, and it's my favorite part about working here. The hardest part is we don't have property tax. We're not getting revenue through any of those normal streams that other cities get it through. It's great when people yell at me that they pay their taxes and I get to say, no, not to us. So, but that does not affect any of us. It doesn't affect Moab City.
But Karen, I have not heard if the state tax commission is thinking of doing the same thing as the federal government as far as delaying when tax filers have to submit their sales tax.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't heard that either. But it is an interesting point to make. That would negatively affect us if that were to be implemented. So
you guys are aware, and the public is aware, we have implemented accounting procedures where we're keeping track of everything we spend on our COVID-19 response. We're also keeping logs of all of our hours that we're spending on it, even hardworking, doing all this. We're keeping tabs of those hours separately so we can submit those. We're keeping tabs of all the revenue we're losing. We're accounting for all of that upfront as we go. So when this ends, we will be ready to submit that day. We are going to have all of our numbers in a row before we get to that point, and we're in the process of doing that as we go along. And that includes recreation, art, everything, the MARC, the MRAC, those areas. We're going to have all that calculation as well.
And you know what? When this ends, we're closing down Center Street in front of City Hall and we're having a barbecue. And we're going to celebrate that this is over. And then we're going to get back to business and we're going to put up welcome signs and we're going to welcome people to come back to Moab and recreate.
Yes.
Is it going to be as a potluck?
No, I don't know. I don't even know.
Speaking of parties,
Throwing a barbecue. Figure it out.
we were planning a party and Rachel's leaving us, as you guys all know, and we were planning a party and we wanted to do something for Rachel, and this has thrown a complete kink in that. So that is happening. Rachel's getting ready to move on from the city, and I just would be remiss if I didn't thank her for everything she's done for this community over the last 2 decades plus. And not just that, what she's done for me. I've been here a year and a half, and Rachel is just half the time she brings me stuff before I even know I need it. And that's a fact. And she's been utterly amazing. Her institutional knowledge for this place is going to be greatly missed and can't be replaced. And it's going to be hard to see her go. And I just cannot thank her enough for what she's done for the city, but also for myself. So thanks, Rachel.
Thank you, Joel. That means a lot. Thank you.
I see a Zoom party coming on.
No, we're having a real party, and we're just gonna have to wait till this mess gets cleaned up.
We have a Zoom party. Bring your own snacks.
A Zoom party is the cheapest kind of party you could throw.
That's right.
I don't know. It depends on which snacks you bring.
Okay. Anything else for administrative reports, Joel?
That's all I have.
Okay, well then we're moving right along. Our next item on the agenda is citizens to be heard. So I'm just going to reiterate the process that we've got going right now for citizens to be heard, and then we'll move right along to our next item on the agenda. So the process by which a citizen can submit to be heard at a meeting is that they can fill out one of the citizens to be heard forms that are available to them as a link on our published agenda. They are limited to 400 words, which is roughly the 3 minutes that they would have time to speak. And I think our intention with the citizen to be heard forms is that citizens will have up until the meeting to complete those forms. And then after the meeting, we can take action on any comments that are made through that channel. It's a little different because we also get comments from the public just through email or through phone calls. But in honor of the citizens to be heard format that we have at our meetings, we will continue to honor a form that they can complete and make available to us, and then we can respond after meetings. Yes, Tani?
I just have a quick question on that. Are those forms that they fill out are part of the packet? The rest of the public can access those? Is that right?
So they will be included in the meeting minutes.
Okay.
So if I can address that.
Sure.
The form is available right up to 7 p.m. the night of the meeting. So we can include them in the packet materials for the public prior, because we're still getting them right before. The comments we do get early enough, we are forwarding those like by 4 o'clock to the council. So those are being considered tonight. They've been provided to them prior to the meeting, so they have time to review those. I want to emphasize to the public that the comments that are on here, you can put any comment in there you want. It's public comment. They can say anything. We would prefer that those comments here be limited to what's in the agenda, because we're going to include those in the minutes for the next meeting for approval, and they're going to become a part of the permanent record. So you can always email council, you can always call staff, you can always reach out with concerns anytime. And so if it's just generic run-of-the-mill stuff, you have a question, we'd prefer you either email council or reach out to staff, rather than formalizing that as a part of a documented record if it's just kind of this random idea that doesn't, but you're welcome to. We're not telling you can't by no means, but I don't want this to become the idea that this is the only way you can get a hold of council and it's used for that. You can always email council, and you can always email staff and call staff and set phone appointments, and we can take care of those other issues immediately.
Okay, thank you, Joel.
And so we have all received, one other comment to make about citizens to be heard is that Summer is kind of buttoning up the way in which it's shared with all of us. So I just want to say thank you to Summer for working hard to create that system so that we can honor that tradition of our regular meetings. Yes, Joel?
Yeah, and we're also trying to find a way that we can share those with the public prior to the meeting and before the minutes of the next meeting, which isn't for 2 more weeks, because we don't want the dialogue to die before that gets back out there. If they shared them live at a meeting, it goes out that night. So we're going to try and find a way that after tonight's meeting, we can get those to the public sooner rather than later. This is all new. The way we're doing this is all new. There's going to be glitches, there's going to be hangups, and there's going to be things we have to change as we go forward in this new world of all of us are sitting in different locations. So we'll figure it out as we go.
Yes, Mike?
Mayor, since this is brand new, I just wonder, for the sake of the public who ordinarily sees people doing citizens to be heard, and it's obvious that the council is at least listening to their comments, if you could reiterate how many letters we've seen so far, and very briefly, perhaps, the subject of what it's about, just so people out there will know that it didn't disappear into a black hole.
Well, I think, Mike, what we decided to do for this meeting and maybe future meetings is in lieu of reporting what was heard. So we did receive, I think, 5 letters or 5 comments of citizens to be heard. So the idea is that we will then publish those so that the community can see them as opposed to reading them online.
And like I said, we're going to include those in the minutes for the next meeting as if they had been read or given by the public in our formal meetings in the past. And they will be formalized in that permanent record. So they can't, the public should have confidence that they're not disappearing, because if they submit one, it will be in the minutes at the next meeting and they'll be able to see it there for time and memoriam. So.
But I think, Mike, to just respond to what you're saying, I get it. When a person is a citizen to be heard, it's not just heard by us, but it's also heard by the public and by the press and other people.
Thank you, stand by.
Interested in the So that's what Summer is still sort of noodling over, is how we can present those comments before they're published as part of the minutes of the next meeting. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, I understand all that, and all that's fine. I'm just thinking a little real-time feedback might be reassuring for our customers, so to speak. But enough said for now.
And that's a good point, Mike. Maybe what we want to do is, Mayor, in the future, we just read who we received comments from in the meeting, so they know that they were received prior to the meeting.
Thank you.
That's not a bad idea. We could do that. I'm not prepared to do that tonight, so we'll move right along. So now we're in section 7 of our agenda, old business, proposed resolution 11-2020, amending the fiscal year 2019-2020 annual budget. And this is for approval. And it is old business. Is there a motion? Ronnie.
I can move to approve proposed resolution 11-2020, amending the fiscal year 2019 to 2020 annual budget.
Thank you, Ronnie. Is there a second? Tawny?
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion or questions for Rachel? Mike, let's just get Mike back on. Mike, there was a motion by Ronnie and a second by Tawny for the agenda item 7.1, and we're in discussion right now. Do you have any questions? Does anyone have any questions or deliberation? Karen?
I do. So Rachel, this looks like it is being paid through CIB funds, SITLA funds, Grand County, and Moab City. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, Karen, was there a specific project that you were referring to?
I'm looking just at the Mill Creek Drive, the West project, Aggie Boulevard, that it was not included in the fiscal year, but that it's actually, looks like it's covered. Is that correct?
Yes, it is covered. We anticipated originally that the project was going to close out last fiscal year. And so this is the portion that carried over construction wise into this year. So yes, it comes from CIB funding, and then Sitla, Grand County, and Moab City also had put in a cash match at the beginning.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions?
No, that was my only question to begin with, and Karen just asked it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Seeing there's no further question or deliberation, I will roll call for the vote. Kaylin,
Aye.
Tawny,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Ronnie,
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Moving right along. 7.2, proposed resolution 15-2020, a resolution directing the renegotiation of the UDOT agreement and terminating the design contract for the downtown parking structure project and directing coordination with UDOT and Grand County to pursue alternative projects for hotspot funding. I want to say a big thank you to Karen and Kaylin for duking it out at our last meeting and then meeting again to duke it out to get this resolution where it is today. Was that a hug?
It was a hug. It was. We didn't have to duke it out. Yes, it was.
No, we had fun at that meeting.
Yeah.
It was good.
Amazing. Well, I wanted to turn the time over to the two of you to guide us through this agenda item. If you want to talk first, or if either one of you wants to make a motion, or however you'd like to do it.
I'd like
Karen?
to make a motion. I move to approve resolution 15-2020, a resolution directing the renegotiation of the UDOT agreement and terminating the design contract for the downtown parking structure project and directing coordination with UDOT and Grand County to pursue alternative projects for hotspot funding.
Thank you, Karen. Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Mike. Discussion.
I would also like to thank Karen and Kaylin. Thank you guys so much for negotiating a difficult language. When Karen and I were originally talking, that final language is what we struggled with the most at all. And this, I want to make it clear that we're just getting going all this. I'm glad people have come to a consensus, and now the hard work starts. Karen and I and the rest of us don't want to be left with egg on our face with accomplishing nothing in the next few months. So we will do our best to make sure that this is something that will be worthwhile for all of us. Thank you very much.
Now, in the renegotiation, I did want to put forward the request that is part of that negotiation that we ask UDOT if we could potentially extend the 6 months in light of everything that's happening. And I think that's, maybe we're all just assuming that, but I just wanted to say it out loud. So Joel, I don't know what your strategy is going to be for the renegotiation with UDOT, but.
We'll send them off a letter tomorrow or Thursday, and we'll start setting up Zoom meetings. Zoom's going to make it a lot easier, actually, because it's in a way making all of us in one location, whereas in the past people weren't open to this real idea, and so we would have to set up meetings when people could come to town, or we could go up there. And so this is actually changing business in some ways, in a good way. Everyone now is using this technology, and we can set up meetings that in the past you had to figure out a whole day, and now we can do stuff that took a day, can now take an hour or two. So in some ways this has been really good.
Yeah. Thanks. Kaylin?
I'd just like to thank Carly and Lori, who are also present at that meeting that Karen and I had, and they were integral to our success in helping us understand what we were trying to do and getting it down on paper in a way that would make sense and set us up for success.
Yeah, I agree. And there was some wording that Kaylin had in his resolution in terms of transparency, and Mike and I potentially didn't have that in there, and that was definitely something that we want to do to make sure that whatever we choose to do, and if UDOT allows us to, to look at different projects that we bring the public along through this process. I mean, that's important for Kaylin and I both. So, and yes, it was a tense meeting the last time, but, Kaylin and I with support from, from Lori and, Harley
The
was good too.
referees.
Yeah, well, they didn't have to referee. I mean, it was, yes, it was very effective, and I really appreciate being able to work with Kaylin on it. So,
Tani?
I'm much more comfortable with this than I was the last time. I appreciate all the work that went into it. I know it was hard, but I'm much more comfortable supporting it. You're not getting me on a shuttle bus anytime soon, though. Thanks, guys.
Anyone else? Ronnie?
So thanks for addressing the transparency, you guys, because that's one question I had last time. I just wanted to make sure the authors were both comfortable. It seems like we have that language in there now. I think we just don't want a repeat of last time. So you guys confident that the transparency language that we need and the conceptualization is better this time?
I think it is. I think by making it very explicit that there will be a committee that is convened by the city and that has to comply with the Open and Public Meetings Act, that will be a channel by which the public is informed when meetings are happening, that they know that they can come, and that what happens at those meetings are documented. And I feel like that was not done consistently in the last process. And I think it's really important that it happens this time. And I think it will.
Thank you both for working on that, because I think that's important to a lot of people. And my question just moving forward, thank you guys for all your work. Yeah, I think this version is great. My question was just as a council member, what I should expect moving forward. I wasn't sure if we would be able to get the 6 months extended. So when I was initially reading this, I was like, oh, okay. We maybe have 5 months left, or 4 if you back it up to, assuming it takes a while to get things on agendas or finalized. And so I was just trying to think through, what can I as a council member kind of expect next? Can someone just kind of tell me what those 2 or 3 initial steps would be? And then I'm kind of hoping that as soon as possible, we could have some kind of work plan so we kind of know what the critical benchmarks are. So we're on task to make all of our benchmarks to, get UDOT and the Transportation Commission, some alternative or some project on time.
Yeah, so when this process started about a month ago and we started working down this road, Carly and I initially met and we discussed that we just needed to start working on it immediately to not waste any time. We initially planned on starting to set up meetings with UDOT and just start renegotiating the contract and start going from there. Then the whole new world we live in began. And so we met about it yesterday again. We discussed the fact that the first thing we needed to do was at least try and request at least that month back that we lost COVID-19 planning, and see if we can get that back. And that's where we're going to start. But our intent is to enter into negotiations with UDOT and see what we can do with the money, see what the projects are, and start renegotiating how that's going to look. We would probably bring that to you next in a closed session, just because it's a contract negotiation and there's legal aspects to that we would want to keep close to our vest as we're working through it. But as we got further down the road and knew what the project list was, we would want that to be a public process and start coming to you guys with what project we want to see get completed. And we would bring that to you guys and start going the public process in order to do that once we have UDOT in agreement that they're willing to go with the things that we're kind of going forward. So initially the idea will be to enter negotiations with them, see how we can reshape the funding, reshape the projects, reshape the money, make sure we're okay to meet our timeframes, and then bring that to you guys, and then start a public process as to how we're going to go forward.
Okay, and I take it it's probably a learning process. So we'll just figure out depending on how long this COVID thing lasts, are options for public process, right? I imagine there are a few, if you had to, that you could do online.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention when I did my comments earlier, the widening project started this week. They are starting to do, UDOT is starting to do that. They've started surveying. Next week, they're going to start some dirt movement around the sites. And so UDOT's here, they're in the community. Those are big dollar projects that are going to try and help us maybe recoup some of our loss of funds that we're losing in another way. So we'll go forward and we'll work with them and bring it to you guys next.
It's probably
Okay,
worth,
thanks.
yeah, it's probably worth mentioning too that right now the state is looking at reallocating funds for dealing with COVID-19. So it's probably just something to be aware of in this renegotiation.
It is a point me and Carly spent considerable amount of time on today when we were discussing this.
Yeah. Okay. Any other discussion? I'll call for the vote with a roll call vote. Mike.
Aye.
Karen.
Aye.
Kaylin.
Aye.
Tawny.
Aye.
Ronnie.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. That feels good. On to new business, section 8.1, proposed resolution 5-2020, adopting the 2020 to 2024 capital improvement project list. It has been in front of us before. And before I ask for a motion, Rachel, looks like you're still with us. But does anyone have any comments or questions about this?
Mayor,
Karen?
sorry, I'm trying to find it, but on that project list, it had the DPS. So are we just gonna wait to potentially take that off the list?
So it being on the prioritization list does not mean that it will be budgeted for.
Okay.
That would have to come back before city council before it was actually included in a budget.
Okay.
Yeah, the main idea behind this list is it takes staff and we get together, about 10 of us, and we go through a process through that checklist you guys approved in order to create a list that we can then present to you so we can get projects approved that way. So one person in the city isn't dictating what projects are getting brought to council.
Okay.
And I just made a comment before about the Emma Boulevard project and whether or not including it on the list was something we wanted to do.
Yeah, it probably is something we want to do, Mayor. It hasn't been included historically because the funding we were using was hotspot funding. And initially when we were trying to build a parking lot, it wasn't a city funded project. What's happened over the last couple of weeks is we've been kind of directed that we want to do this parking lot over here with a road with more parking on that, which will require the allocation of city funds. And so it probably is something now that we have that direction of what we want to do with Emma, that it is something that needs ranked and brought as a part of this.
Yeah, especially if we're, by the time we're installing the Hawk, it feels like responsible for us to have that project planned for. Ronnie?
Oh, can I just ask a question? So on the list right now, we have Emma Boulevard dispersed parking / mini Lee paving improvements. So, so what are you guys talking about that isn't on the list?
So
Or-
what that was, Ronnie, that was before we had our meeting last go around and kind of got the feedback from the community as to how we wanted to see that shape. So we probably need to redo that one with the changes that were proposed and get a solid figure for what we're looking at as the city's part of it.
Well, are you saying that it would go through the matrix again? Because right now, I mean, its score is quite low compared to the other ones. So I wasn't sure.
It would have to go through the matrix again, yeah.
Okay. I mean, just because, you know, okay.
Anything else?
Well, I'd just like to support the inclusion of the Emma Boulevard project, but I wasn't sure how, given that what's proposed for fiscal year 21 are almost entirely outside funded, how we deal with that. So maybe if we looked at it in the context of the overall dispersed parking, it might make sense. But so I just encourage staff to keep looking at it, and we can revisit it when we know more and have a better sense of what's happening in this crazy economy.
Yes. Mike?
Yeah, I would just like to say, you can put it on the list. It's all kind of rhetorical right now, and that this is excess money, but in my mind, I just want to say that Emma Boulevard is still suffers from some shortcomings. And for me to want to spend 300K or whatever the number is going to be to pay them a boulevard when it still doesn't really meet the access requirements for businesses along Main Street, some other shortcomings and so forth, I would be reluctant to put it on the list with a sense of really putting it as a top priority right now. I mean, that's just my opinion. Okay.
And I think that's a great point that Mike makes, and I think it highlights why we have this list. It's so literally staff ranks it. It then gets in that priority, and like Ronnie said, it's not that high. And then as we bring projects to you and we say, hey, we want you guys to approve Emma Boulevard, one of the first questions you're going to ask us going forward is, well, where is it on the priority list? And we're going to show you that, and that's going to be a part of our analysis to get you guys to approve things. Is as a staff collectively, we didn't even rank this all that high. Why are we now bringing it to you for approval type thing? So that's the whole point of setting this up and getting this dialogue started. So we don't run into these situations where we get into a project, 6 months into the project, collectively as a group, we're saying, why are we even doing this project? Whose idea was this? Like, we're trying to avoid the situation that historically we as a city have kept falling into with these projects. That's the whole point of what we're trying to do.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion. Kaylin?
I move to approve resolution 05-2020, adopting the actually, I'm confused. Is this appears to be adopting proposed capital projects for fiscal year 21, but sorry. All right, I'll start again. Move to approve proposed resolution 05-2020, adopting the 2020 to 2024 capital improvements project list.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second.
Okay, Mike, I'll take your second. Any further deliberation? Although, I will roll call this vote. Kaylin?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Tawny?
Which one of us?
Tawny?
Oh, sorry. Aye.
Ronnie?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Your names are similar. We're on to 8.2, proposed resolution 8-2020, designating depositories for Moab City financial accounts. Is there a motion? Karen?
I move to approve the proposed resolution 08-2020 designating depositories for Moab City funds.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will.
Tawny?
Oh, was that me or Tawny? Oh, okay.
I said Tawny. Her hand was first.
You can take it, Tawny. Catch that. I'm throwing it to you.
Discussion. Ronnie?
So Rachel, could you just explain to me one more time? I don't know why I'm having trouble with this, but so in the agenda summary, it explains to us, that the second part of the resolution, sorry, I'm trying to flip and it's not flipping to the right place. Basically adds a backup to our PTIF account to transfer money into our Wells Fargo account during the unlikely event of the combined absence of the city treasurer and city manager. Can you just, I don't know why I'm having trouble with that, but can you just walk me through that?
Sure. So PTIF is where we keep the bulk of our cash. Wells Fargo is our disbursement bank. So Wells Fargo is where we actually pay employees and accounts payable out of. PTIF is where the majority of our revenue, like sales tax revenue, goes to. So we do usually weekly transfers from PTIF into Wells Fargo so that we can meet our obligations. We also do some transfers from Wells Fargo into PTIF if we have excess cash there. So right now it is the assistant treasurer who is the primary signer on that account who makes those transfers. In her absence, the city manager can. However, the city manager does not have online access. The city manager can only call and verbally transfer. The finance director has access to view the accounts, but not to make any transfers. So in order for the city manager to call up and transfer, the city manager would have to talk to the finance director to say what account, how much money, and it's sort of a separation of duties so that only the assistant treasurer within the treasurer department has control to view the balance and transfer the money. But if the assistant manager goes on vacation, which was the thought pre-COVID when I first put this resolution together, then we need someone that is a backup for the assistant treasurer that can both view the balance online and make transfers.
Ah, thank you. Now I'm clear. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote with a roll call. Tawny,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Ronnie,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Kaylin.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Approval against the bills, approval of bills against the city of Moab. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the bills against the city of Moab in the amount of $1,260,000. I'm sorry, let me start over. $1,260,418.86.
Thank you, Tawny. Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Mike. Discussion.
I'm glad they're not mine.
A lot of money. Yep. Thank you, Tawny, for working with staff in the way that you did to be able to have that number for us tonight.
And they're doing a lot better at buying locally. I can tell there's a concentrated effort.
Ronnie, did you have something?
I know you asked for me to wear my lovely protective gear. So I was going to ask Tawny while I do this if we were able to purchase toilet paper.
I don't know. I'll look while you're donning your headgear.
Oh,
Okay. I'm coned now. Just so you know, it's not a city cone. This is my dog's cone. She was kind enough to loan it to me.
Yeah, do we have enough toilet paper at City Hall?
Yes, and paper towels.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Be careful, don't advertise that. They will
Started
listen.
making sure we secured about a month ago. We've been really, really vigilant.
Oh, good times. Okay, I will call for the vote with roll call. Kaylin,
Aye.
Tawny,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Ronnie,
Aye.
Mike.
aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Great job tonight, guys. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
All right, Mike, is there a second?
I will second.
Okay, Karen, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Bye, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Great
Bye
job.
bye.
Thank you.